it be in camp or, turning it on before you get in the cage or even afterwards whenever, all right, fight's done, let me, I got to come back and be a regular human again. Like, kind of take us through those hurdles you kind of do when you have the mental aspect of it.
Yeah, so like when I usually, sign a contract, it really, like, as soon as I sign that, obviously I'm training, I stick to like a, kind of like a very, like, even if I'm in or out of camp, I'm still kind of doing the same thing. It's just like, as soon as I sign that contract, for me, like, in my head, it's like, all right, I'm locked in. But now it's like, that's really when it starts, like, that mental preparation. Like, all right, I gotta go compete in about 7 weeks, so we gotta really start kicking up. So I'll hit like cardios Monday, Wednesday, Friday where I'm really like keeping like a 135 heart rate and just kind of focusing on. It's not like a test, but it's just a good battle. It helps with weight management, and then I get into that the sauna. Sauna is really where I do a lot of my mental training. Just pushing yourself, because you're gonna hit a breaking point in your sauna where you're like, all right, I gotta get out of here, and and you gotta fight it. You may have 10 minutes on the clock, you may have 5 minutes on the clock, but just setting a time and not getting out until you hit that time, that's always been what I kind of during my camps really hit on. It's just, I'll do multiple goes in the sauna where I'm just, it's obviously helps with weight, but it's more just training my mind. And then just, every time I'm training, just pushing that wall back a little bit, times where like, oh, I can't get one more, and I just, end up doing, 4 more reps. Or you're just exhausted, but you're training, because you're going to hit a point in the fight where it's either going to be him or you. In terms of, you may have 2 minutes left in the third round. You may have 2 minutes left in the second round. There's always, each fight I've been in, at least there's been that point where you can either give in or, push past it. When you get to the other side, it's a lot easier. So that's kind of where, that mental push helps my fight. And then afterwards, it's kind of like, all right, I'm gonna get back to my main routine. I'm still training, but it's obviously dialed back a little bit. But I still want to get back at the gym right away, just so I'm not, giving myself, too much time off, because people are always coming. That's something I always think about. People are always coming after you. So it's good to turn the mind off in terms of like, all right, I can relax for 2 weeks, not thinking about, fighting anyone or doing any of that. But still, let's keep my body moving. Let's keep thinking about technique, watch tape, right? See where I went wrong, and kind of work on just small little technical adjustments before I jump right back in,
Right. Yeah, you touched on something there about, there's always somebody coming, and it's a Jeter quote that I always loved, even though I'm not a Yankees fan, but you got to respect Jeter for everything he did do for that team and just for baseball in general. But he had a saying that was, it's easier to stay in shape than get back into shape. So, once that off season was done or started, he was already working out for the next season because, like you said, there's always somebody coming for you. So, if you think you're the best and you want to continue to prove you're the best, then, like you said, you might take a week or two vacation in the sense that you're not too worried about what's going on, but you're still, focusing on what can you do better? What other aspects can you be better at, so that, no one's ever going to be perfect, and everyone has an off night. Everyone can have a good shot. Again, we'll keep the quotes coming. The Mike Tyson quote of everybody's got to play until you get punched in the face. So the fact that you continue to just keep, always almost like a sponge, just keep soaking it in and learning it and seeing what you can do better and, keep tweaking it, that's very commendable. And obviously it shows why you are in fact undefeated so far in MMA.
Yeah, I think just, trying to just be a student. Because when it comes down to it, I've been wrestling my whole life, but I've only been doing martial arts for 3 years. So,
right.
It's in that aspect, in that perspective, I'm a young athlete, so and it's, I'm a professional, so this is my job, so I gotta, just like someone works 8 hours a day, I gotta find my ways to get the time in, whether it be actually working out, watching film, nutrition, all that stuff comes into play. It's not just, going to work out and then just sitting down, you're always trying to do something that's just gonna, make you better at your craft, just like anything else.
Yeah, it's true. And then, again, like you said, as much as it is physical, it is mental as well. And so as long as you're still working your brain out as well and trying to figure out different ways to, problem solve or just dissect things in looking at just life in general in a different direction or different ways is always more beneficial than, that tunnel vision that some people get of like, okay, there's only one way to do this, then I'm just going to keep doing it this way. It's like, well, that's not true. There's a bunch of different ways you could be doing it.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a great point. Great point. I think just go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, man.
No, I just had. I was going to say, like, I always have a little bit of that tunnel vision perspective, where just as like a wrestler, do it one way, the hard way, and that's it. Which is true, but there's always there's other ways of thinking outside the box, which I think when it comes to mixed martial arts is also huge.
True. I mean, look what Anderson Silva did to Vitor Belfort. That front kick, that wasn't a thing before him. The calf kick wasn't really a thing before it is now taken over MMA. You had Anthony Pettis, obviously, the cage kick. Like, there's always different ways to, like the twister that the Korean Zombie brought into the UFC. Like, that thing is insane, and just looking at it, you're like, how would you get that on somebody? But you've had at least 3 or 4 twisters that I remember seeing in the UFC alone, let alone, any other promotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always different ways to go about things.
Absolutely.
Now, you touched on the fact that you had conversations with your wife about, what's the next step for us. How important is that support system of having her, in your corner, and then also how is she, during camp and on fight nights?
Oh, that's everything, Just having the support, of her, of my family. That's kind of, that's like the icing on a cake. For me, it's like, all right, I want to do this. But if you don't have that, that support system, she's helping, make smoothies for me or cook, help me cooking, meal prepping. It's that's everything. So I can work out, come home, have a meal, make a meal for her. And just, I think it also helps with when I'm done training, just, talking about something else, being with her.
Yeah.
Eases everything, And it's kind of like when I'm in, when I sign a contract, it's like nothing, there's just like a slight, mental change, you can sense it in the atmosphere, but like it's nothing else. We're just, doing our thing, going about each day, trying to be the best version of ourselves and, pushing each other. She pushes me a lot and helps me reach out, to market my brand, market myself.
Yeah.
And, she's the best when it comes to that. She helps a lot. She's like an agent kind of, for me too. So helps a lot, She knows you know, how I like to keep my circle tight, and you know, I was very good at reading people and seeing their, you know, true character too, which I think is huge in this.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of things there. Like, you do have to know people's intentions when they are, you know, wanting to be helping you, or, you know, sometimes even quote unquote helping you, when it really just helps them at the end of the day. And it can be very tricky. I mean, we've seen it in boxing for decades, where, you know, a lot of the fighters, I mean, we've seen it in MMA as well, but it's more prominent, and it has been happening for longer in boxing, where you have these managers or promoters just absolutely screw the talent over, but they're making all the money at the back end of it, and the fighter doesn't know that until after it already happened, and they're like, wait a minute, where'd all that money you said was? Oh, I didn't read that contract. Crap. You know, I imagine it happens the same way with sponsorships as well, or just little things in general that, you know, a lot of fighters don't think about, or don't, you know, worry about too much, because they're worried about, okay, what's my next fight, which is my next payday. I got to focus on that to make sure that I can keep the lights on, keep the food on the table, do all that. But unfortunately, you know, you have the bad side of it, where you do have these people trying to just screw these athletes over because, you know, they think they can.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Dealing with that, you know, you don't know that coming in, and then you kind of realize, and you're like, oh, okay. You figure it out, whether it's early or, you know, late. And I think it's, you figure it out inevitably, and then it's just like, all right, I gotta tighten up some things, and, you know, whether it's starting, you know, sponsorship lookout earlier in your camp, or, you know, you don't want to be, you know, running around like a week and a half, 2 weeks before the fight, dealing with all that stuff. So I like to just get that out earlier if I can, you know, a month out, have all my sponsorships locked down, all my, you know, my shorts, my shirts made, and just get, you know, for the last 3 weeks, just really hone in on, you know, the mental, and just get my body feeling right and ready to go.
Right. Yeah, that's smart, because the less worries you have before the fight, the easier it's going to be. Like, just get all that out of the way far ahead of time.
And especially my last fight, like I fought for Cage Fury 4 times as professional, and then my last one was for Ring of Combat. And I always had a link for tickets, so I never was like pushing actual tickets, but for this one I had to push actual tickets. It actually worked out really well for me. But this was like the first time I was like, you know, reaching out to people for that, like, cause I had actual tickets, you know, posting on my Instagram. And I was like meeting up with people like the week of the fight. And I was like, golly, I gotta worry about, you know, a bunch of things right now. The last things on my mind is getting these people tickets. But, you know, sometimes you gotta do.
True. Now, I've had an idea for a long time, and I'm going to throw it out at you. So you have sponsors, you get them on a shirt, but trying to put that shirt on after a fight is probably almost as hard as the fight alone. Have you thought about having a poncho where you put all your sponsors on there and then just throw the poncho on afterwards? Because you don't have to worry about armholes. You just throw it over on top of your head, and you still got all the sponsors right in front of it.
That's actually a pretty good idea. You know?
See? Thank you.
Actually.
I thought so too. Yeah. Okay. I think more people need to do it.
Getting a shirt back on isn't as terrible as it seems. A lot of times, like for me, I was just like, my last fight, I'm sweating, I'm hot, I don't want to put this shirt on right now. But it's kind of like, you know, you gotta. But if you do a lot of the, you know, Instagram posting and stuff before the fight, you know, everyone knows, you know, kind of who your brand is and whatnot. And so yeah, the poncho would be a good idea.
Yeah, thank you. I always tell the guys and girls struggle, and I was like, why don't they just wear a poncho? There's no worries of armholes, and you can wear it sweaty or dry. Either way, it works out. Yeah, and you could actually get more sponsorships on there because you're not limited on the t-shirt size.